Alrighty, guys, we are back. It's your boy Q. Up next, we have hip hop's worst record deals. Shout out to Lupe for the video. Yeah, like I feel like the music industry, I feel like entertainment, period. There's been a litany of terrible contracts, terrible deals, and honestly, it sucks, but it's a story that's as old as time itself. There's always going to be somebody trying to get over on somebody else, especially when the person they're getting over on doesn't have all the resources to make like the best possible decision, like having a good attorney, which it's not just having a attorney, it's having an attorney specialized in whatever business you're handling. So a real estate attorney, it probably shouldn't be the first person you ask for like music industry advice. Law is completely different. It's stuff like that. But yeah, enough dilly-dallying. We're going to jump right into the video. Again, the video is entitled Hip Hop's Worst Record Deals.
Imagine you spend your whole life chasing your dreams, pursuing what you love, and becoming the world's next big thing, just to be exploited and left with little to nothing. Since the beginning of the music industry, major record labels have taken advantage of.
And mind you, you think some of these rappers are getting millions of dollars. They're not. That's very, very rare. The leverage you have to build up is crazy. You have to have already been selling like huge amounts of records, or just your buzz is just that popping. But a lot of these acts, when they're coming up, they're getting these advances, if any at all, 10K, 15K, and that's to live off of, you know? Like they expect you to like now produce this project, and it's not really a lot of money. It can go very, very quickly, like even with like the advancements of technology and people like being able to record from their home, it still gets expensive, buying beats and all that stuff.
Of ambitious young artists, suckering them into contracts disguised as a gateway to fame, but ultimately leaving them shortchanged. Rappers have been,
mind you, I'm signed, and I'll tell you that everybody's first contract is terrible for the most part.
no exception. The hip-hop industry is often known for taking advantage of numerous young MCs who lack knowledge about money and law and left them stuck with some really bad contracts. My name is Lupe, and these are the worst record deals we've ever seen through hip-hop history. The horror stories of artists like Lil Boom, who took a ridiculous $7,500 advance and partially forfeited his
Half
rights,
of what I said.
might lead you to believe that these atrocities could never happen to the biggest names in the game. However, cases like NBA YoungBoy prove that it doesn't matter how many times you're the #1 streamed artist on YouTube, and that it makes no difference if you were roped into signing a bad contract to begin with. I'm sure you all know who NBA YoungBoy is. The Baton Rouge rapper took the world by storm with his gritty and painfully honest tales of his life in the streets, and has refused to let go ever since. He has more than 30 billion total streams and over 100 RIAA certified releases, including 3 platinum or double platinum albums. But despite his success, he's only received a fraction of the reward, cementing his story as a cautionary tale for artists on the come up. And yet, it's still not even close to the worst one in this video. Once YoungBoy rose to the highest peaks of the industry, OGs and media figures started looking at his deal and realizing that he wasn't getting what he was owed, which told
a lot of that YouTube money wasn't coming in, I believe.
them everything they needed to know about how the rap game is run.
Why did Atlantic basically tell YoungBoy, listen, after 22 albums that you dropped in a time period where we only contracted you to do 5, we'll negotiate and give you this amount of money, but we ain't giving you a motherfucking part of your masters back. These are real things. What does that mean? When YoungBoy started, he's 17, he's 22 now. You don't understand what the going on? He's just putting out music.
Even you look at the guys now.
That contract, that contract gets shoved in your face, and you're like, to a lot of people, that's like the sign of success. Like you having a deal, you being signed. So you get these contracts not knowing what you're signing, and these people that like are signing you are like, dude, they're sharks. They're talking to you like they're your friend. They're talking to you like you guys are the biggest homies. But as soon as you flop, or as soon as you're useless to them, dude, they won't even pick your phone call up, and basically you're shelved. And also, yeah, man, don't give them more than what they're asking for, man. Honestly, like he shouldn't have given them 22 albums. That's really what it was. But again, a lot of people don't know the inner workings of the industry.
That's probably big right now with social media. I just seen they had NBA YoungBoy. He's the biggest YouTuber influencer as far as music. He did a deal for $2 million for 5 records. So think about that. You got the money up front, but imagine what they get. We have to teach that to the next generation. Look at the bigger picture. Don't just look at that now.
At a certain point, YoungBoy woke up, realized how unfair his deal was and started fighting for his release, beginning with this simple post on his IG story from July of 2020 that read, "I said they can have the next 4 albums for free, all I want is my masters, and I still got told no. Dirty game." Among the top artists on streaming services today, Atlantic Records knew what they had and started getting creative in terms of how they classified his projects just to extend his time there.
Atlantic's making a killing off Young. But of course, the greatest thing they do is they only called 3 of them an album. Now,
tapping a Meg too, I believe.
This is how it works. YoungBoy's dropped way more than 5 projects. Now, why is he dropping those projects? Because that's his way of staying hot. He feeds the streets. He could have got bitchy. If they're not gonna count one of these to my album requirement, I'm not dropping. They're gonna say, well, nigga, we told you only drop once a year.
Trapped in a deal that no amount of drops or hits.
Yeah, like I said, you don't give them more than what they like asked for, because they're not gonna pay you for it. They'll do little things where, like, if the runtime on your album ain't long enough, it doesn't count as an album. And some people don't realize that till it's too late. They upload, and now it's like you gave them a free project.
Hits could save him from, YoungBoy was left only reaping a portion of the prize he deserved. As one of YoungBoy's fans put it, people sign shitty deals when they're desperate. Then they blow up and realize just how bad their deal is.
Sometimes we know.
YoungBoy continued releasing, but did so while waging a war against Atlantic, with the intention of warning other rappers to avoid doing business with them.
That's their
Don't
money
sign
up.
to Atlantic. If you're an artist, they're not gonna support you, especially if you live a certain way. After all that back and forth, it came as no surprise when YoungBoy refused the $25 million deal that Atlantic offered him after his previous agreement expired. Beginning with 2023's I Rest My Case, YoungBoy has been signed to an alleged multi-million-dollar deal with Motown, a place where he seems much happier. YoungBoy handled his situation with patience, but there are instances where high-profile stars face so much label bullshit that they get burnt out, leaving the mic behind forever. This is the case with former Young Money signee, Tyga. And after what happened to him, it's really no surprise that he stayed independent ever since. In his early career, Tyga was on his mixtape grind. After briefly signing to an indie label run by gym class heroes Travis McCoy, the Cali rapper caught the attention of Lil Wayne and Young Money.
I want to say he didn't sign him directly. He signed to Fall Out Boy's record label, if I'm not mistaken. But it was through knowing Travis. And everyone thought like Travis was his cousin. They're not really cousins. They're just like really close homies, and he showed a lot of love, which is dope.
The subsidiary that Tunchi ran as part of his deal with Birdman's Cash Money and Republic. After getting the chance to show the public what he could do on tracks like Bedrock and Rack City, Tyga's debut album, Careless World, Rise of the Last King, was a major smash. But even though he should have been flying high, what the young artist didn't know at the time was that he was being screwed over big time on his label. After he decided to leave the label before
he was signed to a label that has been marred with like money issues and money issues and disputes since almost the beginning. Like Young Money, Cash Money, like they haven't been known to do some of the better business. Like
for the release of his 4th album, he was about to realize how much he messed up back then. Because as he prepared to leave Young Money, it would majorly cost him.
I'm on the road with Wayne. He's recording Carter 3, so I'm just in the sauce right now. We did Bedrock, and it was like, you know, you got to sign. It's gonna be the single. I was like, all right, cool. So I signed. I didn't even think about it. I didn't think twice. I had a lawyer, but like my lawyer at the time was the same lawyer that was representing Cash Money. It was already a bad thing from jump. 17, 18, so I don't really know nothing about lawyers. And then I'm just like, cool, I'm rocking with Wayne. I'm on the bus with him every day. I'm having fun, so I wasn't really worried about it.
From 2015 onwards, Tyga has dropped music through his independent label, Last Kings and Empire. For a while, he was flopping hard. Even the assistance of Kanye West as an executive producer.
He's caught some big records though within the last few years though, I'll say that.
With his 2019 project Legendary and its smash single, Taste, Tyga finally mounted a legit comeback, overcoming the odds stacked against him.
She can get a taste.
Yeah, it was a big record.
His momentum stalled again soon after, and following a short spell as an OF creator, he returned in 2023 on a collaboration project with YG. While the track didn't exactly set the world alight, at least he's getting 100% of what he's owed now that he's freed himself from the legal.
Yeah, I'll bet you he's probably making way more money than he was making under Young Money, and you wouldn't think that because like of the sheer like exposure he was getting with Young Money. But if he's just getting a bigger cut of the pie, you don't have to sell 1 million records. If you sell like 20,000 copies, 60,000 copies, you're doing pretty well for yourself as an indie artist. Plus, you don't have all that overhead. So he's chilling, man. He's chilling.
dispute over his first deal. But for someone who was more of a one-hit wonder than expected, failing to live up to your promise can really leave you in a bad spot. When it comes to artists who know that kind of pain, few of them have been as vocal about their misfortunes as Kran. If you're not familiar, Kran was once projected to be a huge star. A young white female who brought a unique flavor to the game. Kray caught fire with early hits.
She never recouped her advance. They chalked that up as a loss. She basically retired from music after.
It's like Gucci Gucci and Bumpin' Bumpin' back in 2011.
Wayne murked that, man.
Today, a lot of fans feel that, for better or worse, these tracks were ahead of their time and hinted at the direction music was heading in. Imagine if this dropped today. TikTok servers would overload and explode. Courtesy of her huge momentum, the polarizing rapper found herself with a deal from Atlantic. A repeat offender in today's video.
Because that beat is still... That beat could still work today, and that's honestly what a lot of it is. It's the beat, and some type of catchy, dumbed down hook can do it, but like the instrumental is actually really, really important.
And as you'll see, they will only get more and more ruthless. After she was given a $1 million advance, it would take until September of the following year for her debut album, Something About Kray, to drop. It peaked at number 112 upon release, and the only tracks that made...
When you have a hit like that, you gotta strike while it's hot, you know, or if not, you're gonna just like have to rebuild all this buzz. And certain people, like there's certain artists that their song is bigger than them. Basically, like we know the song, but we don't know the artist, so there's nothing to relate to, there's nothing to connect to. But once that song fades, like the artist fades. It's really imperative now in this day and age where like people want to know, like look how these streamers are now becoming some of the most like famous people on the planet. Because people have these parasocial relationships that you feel connected to. These people feel like a friend. And there's a lot of people that like kind of faded away because they didn't understand that. Versus you look at somebody like Will Smith, who came from an era where like it was all about, you could be mysterious. You would only pop out for like the movies, award shows, and like interviews and stuff like that. But he saw the shift, which is why you saw him all over social media and doing just regular stuff on like YouTube, because he understood the game shifted. But yeah, man, she took her money and peaced out. She never recouped that. She still owes that, because at the end of the day, these labels are glorified banks and advances are loans that you must pay back.
Any impact had already been released. It was simply a flop, perhaps one that people should have seen coming. After this short-lived adventure, people swept her aside, and she went largely undiscussed. Today, she has yet to release another project with the label. Since then, Kran has rallied against the contract they put her in, and claimed to have seen almost no money for her most successful tracks.
Playing Gucci Gucci, playing Go Hard. That shit don't go to my.
They probably gave her like a work for hire for it.
No.
Not any like, oh, you get a check for $100.
I literally get a check for $100.
Literally.
Yeah, from ASCAP like every 3 months.
To make matters worse, Kray wasn't only losing out on money, but in turn owes thousands to her label, even as Gucci Gucci reached platinum status in 2023. Crazy that I will owe Sony $800K on one album for 10 plus years. It's sounding fishy. I know they're eating off me till this day, but platinum? Still in the same money debt? 10 years? Math, not mathing. Here's more numbers. I swear my debt started at $800K when I saw it 10 years ago, and it has barely changed. Sometimes I even swear it's higher. In Kran's case, we see what can happen when an advance is never recouped. She's now stuck trying to free herself from a debt she could never repay.
Yeah, you owe it forever.
Not all issues with labels stem from money.
Yeah, man, it's freaking crazy. She basically is in this debt forever because of this contract. And the crazy part about it all is that, like, I'm not sure if it was like a #1 Billboard hit. It was definitely a #1 rap hit. #1 records make millions of dollars. Like, and we've seen it time and time again when like there's these lawsuits where like they basically were found guilty of like sampling, not really sampling, but interpolating, which is like replaying a melody that's already been like copywritten. And obviously when there's lawsuits, financials are put into discovery and people could see what these songs made. And these #1s are making anywhere from like 15 to like 21 million dollars. So they probably got their money back and some. So yes, definitely super sketchy.
For some, creative differences can create even worse predicaments. And for Lupe Fiasco, this was exactly what he dealt with under Atlantic. Way back in the day, Lupe was just a spitter from Chicago who seemed like he was next up. Renowned for his incredible technical ability.
Next up, bro dropped classics. He has at least 2 classics and some monster international hits.
Lupe made good on that promise with his debut album Food and Liquor and its follow-up
Kick
Cool,
Push, fam.
which gave him the biggest hit ever on the Matthew Santos-assisted Superstar.
Yeah, a fresh, cool young Lou trying to cash his microphone check 212. Wanna believe my own hype, but it's too untrue.
Now that he had given the label a taste of the commercial success he could bring them, they wanted all they could squeeze out of him. In turn, this led to their relationship falling apart, and one of the most talented
He said F it and started learning how to become a samurai, playing Street Fighter all day.
spitters of a generation getting
Can't blame
majorly
him.
mistreated by his label. I once asked Lior for my masters in exchange for signing a 360 deal, and he said, "Do I want them in a suitcase to carry around?" A greatest hit from among all the other wild stuff some of these white record execs have said to me with a straight face in private.
It's crazy when now like these masters are going for like tens of millions of dollars. Some of these people are getting 80 to 100 million dollars for their masters. You're like a Bieber, they're getting crazy. They're getting even higher than that. So it is fucking nuts, especially when Lior has been known to be a shark. But that's who you're dealing with when you're in this industry. It's all these people aren't your friends. You might like sign this deal, and you guys might toast, to the deal and drink your champagne, or every once in a while like hang out somewhere at some like white party, like a Michael Rubin party. But these people aren't your friends, fam. Like they want to squeeze out whatever dollar they can out of there. Like, and this is somebody, Lior Cohen's been around since like, dude, like the dawn of like hip hop. He's been around for a minute doing stuff like this.
Around the time he was crafting his third album, Lasers, the label started putting major pressure on him to get things moving along. The whole relationship was disintegrating because he refused to play ball with their demands.
I was also told,
but it is the music
because you
biz.
didn't sign this 360 deal,
No support.
We may or may not push your record.
Wild. It's because of 360 deal, they're not just eating off the music, they're eating off anything you do. If you get like a modeling gig, if you get an endorsement, anything, your merch, they're getting cuts of everything. And that's what he wasn't willing to give up, and that's what happens. It is true when they say, and I've heard it from like my mentor, and I've heard it from so many people, hit records aren't made, they're bought. It's just how it goes.
So when Shining Down came out and you didn't hear it on the radio station,
yeah, man, it's
because they never took it to a radio station.
As things continued to get tense, fans even organized protests outside of their offices to force Atlantic to drop the project. Yet Atlantic continued to screw him over, even taking the original version of Airplanes and giving it to B.O.B. instead, robbing him of a hit song.
I jumped to defend, I'm waged with a page, my pen's mightier than them, and I got missiles on the stage.
Lupe would see continued success with the label, including a #1 album and multiple projects, but was ultimately forced to sabotage his career to regain his freedom.
I like lasers. I knew that there was gonna be some bullshit. So I was like, you know what? I will never, ever, ever, as long as I'm on this label, give this label like my heart, like what I really. If you're working with somebody, they have to like show you some love, right? So I took an L.
Since 2017's Drogos Light, Lou has been dropping what he wants, and fans can rest assured knowing they'll get the rest of his projects in all their intellectual glory. But he's not the only artist who had to scratch and claw to regain their artistic freedom. In the case of Megan Thee Stallion, she was cheated out of millions before she could call her music her own.
That was nuts too. That's how I was saying earlier. Like, I think with her though, some of the issues were her fault. I think some of the records just weren't like the right length. Like they were like off by like 5-10 minutes. And honestly, at that point, I would just like do whatever to make sure that the length was made. Like just put beats and let's let instrumentals rock or something. Like I'm pretty sure they probably could have slapped on another 4 or 5 songs. Because of that, they weren't like calling some of these projects albums, which is just their way of keeping the golden goose. Like the label, I want to say is the label was founded by Carl Crawford, who just happens to be like a baseball player that had money, wanted to get into the music biz, and dude, he hit it out the ballpark with Meg. Yeah, like I said, these people aren't your friends, fam. This happens to not just rappers, reggaeton artists as well. It happened to Bad Bunny. They would only like allow him to like release these singles, and they're like, he's like, yo, why aren't we dropping albums? And it was just for that same reason. If you don't put out an album ever, we can have you signed forever. Especially now, it's not like you can literally just put out a single. Look what Cardi's been doing since 2016. You can just theoretically put out a single every few months and then never drop a project and just keep that motion going. Keep collecting on this person that will never get out of their deal. Like savagery, fam.
Signed to the label 1501,
That's the
owned by
music
former
business.
MLB player Carl Crawford, Megan's early
There we
career
go.
was regularly stunted by 1501's micromanagement. Before long, her annoyance churned into internet outcry.
I want to tell y'all that 1501 trying to tell me I can't put out no music. Y'all don't see no music from Megan Thee Stallion? It's because 1501 don't want to drop that music.
That's
I
what
know
happens
everything
when
that
you're
was in that
signed to a
contract.
label.
So when I got with Rock Nation,
Give
I
up
got
that creative
management,
control.
real management. I got real lawyers, and they was like, "Do you know that this is in your contract?" And I was like, "Oh damn."
As Meg attracted more fame, she earned a management deal at Rock Nation. It was during the legal battle
Major.
to get her out of her contract that its corrupt elements began to reveal themselves. The lawsuit spells out what Megan considers to be the worst parts of the deal she has with 1501.
This is giving me like flashbacks. It's triggering as fuck, man. But yeah, in some of these contracts, in mine, my first 2 revisions had it in there where they would own my professional name and personal name. And that was like one of my like just no's, you know? I feel like that's like when they say sell your soul, that's gotta be a part of it. You're giving that up. I told him the first time, he was like, all right, like he wouldn't let me like negotiate some of the other terms. He's like, I'll give you that. He sent me a revised version. Maybe assuming that I wasn't gonna read it again, and it still had it in there again until like I was like, yo, dude, this is it's gonna be a no-go unless I get that taken out. But she was like, yo, sorry for the unprofessionalism. So yeah, it could have been just like, could have been the attorney's fault. Just like, I definitely feel like an attorney would be a little more responsible with removing a clause from a contract.
She said that she got a $10,000 advance when she signed,
I told
and that
you,
the
they
label
don't
gets
be giving a lot.
60% of her recording income. Of the 40%, she still has to pay engineers, mixers, and other artists who featured on her tracks.
Nuts.
Megan says they're supposed to give her a statement on what she's owed, but that their accounting has been purposefully and deceptively vague. The suit went on to reveal that Megan has over 1 billion streams and 300 individual
she made him a
track
pretty
downloads.
penny.
That translates to around $7 million, while her ex-label has only paid her $15,000. After a lot of back and forth, they finally settled things in 2023,
And he connected to Jay
by
Prince.
October of that year, she announced the
They
launch of her
basically
very
run
own
Houston.
Hot Girl Productions, backed by a distribution deal through Warner. Megan's online tirade, backed by her massive
That's dope.
success, landed her a pretty admirable outcome. But other artists have had to take much more extreme measures to get.
She's smart. Like the tour that she put together, her including all these other female rappers in there, definitely helped with like the ticket sales and filling out like these venues. Because sometimes it's really hard to like fill out some of these like arenas on the regular. Like when you're going to like some of these cities that aren't New York or Houston or Miami, where you know you're gonna sell out regardless. So that was definitely smart.
Their way. The story of TLC is a perfect example,
bam.
as they had to resort to gang-like methods
OG,
in order
crappy
to shake
contract.
a terrible deal off their backs. One of the most popular girl groups of the 90s, TLC's Chili, T-Boz, and Lisa Left Eye Lopez all signed deals when they were barely in their 20s. What they didn't realize is that their contract with LaFace Records gave them a measly 56 cents per album sold, which also had to be split 3 ways. This comes out at around $200,000 for every million albums sold. On top of that, TLC received delayed royalty payments and eventually had to file for bankruptcy despite having grossed millions. After staying silent on the matter, TLC finally hit a breaking point. After they swept the Grammys, they explained that they were in a bad spot and how they ended up in it.
I'll put it to you this way. We are the biggest selling female group ever. 10 million albums worldwide. We have worked very hard. We have been in this business for 5 years. And we are
you can tell this has had enough of it.
As broke can be.
I can't go into everything right now, but trust me, you can sell 10 billion albums and be broke if you have greedy people
Of course.
behind you.
Damn, I know people with monster hits sleeping on a couch, fam. It's not unheard of, you know, like especially when some of these people like it's just because of just ignorance to the law, ignorance to the music business. It doesn't make them dumb. They just like, dude, we don't know this business. There's been certain times where these people will get these big records and the labels will go and be like, we'll give you this money, but you're going to have to sign it over as a work for hire, which basically de facto gives them all the publishing. It basically makes them the creator of the record, at least on paper. So they own everything goes to them. They take all ownership.
Well,
Yeah,
you
just
know,
a flat
contracts
fee.
and stuff's kind of hard to handle business when you're stuck in contracts that say certain things.
It didn't take a heated phone call or hiring.
Another thing to think about is how many albums some of these contracts are. Like it might be a 2-3 album deal. It might be a 5 album deal. Now imagine 5 album deal, but they're not letting you put out the music at the rate you want to. Or they're controlling like the creative vision. Obviously, that they have to approve these records before they get pressed and sold. It's just nasty.
Hearing fiery lawyers, the ladies of TLC took Clive Davis, the head of the label's parent company, and held him hostage to negotiate a better deal. We held the record company hostage with guns with bullets, because TLC had generated $75 million on Crazy Sexy Cool, and they gave us $50,000 a piece. And I was like, what the hell? So of course, Lisa was the ringleader, we had a limo driver, and he was the getaway car. The story immediately made headlines, but even with the insane actions that TLC had to take, young artists continue to fall victim to contracts like these. For example, NLE Choppa became one of hip-hop's biggest hypocrites after the label got to his head. And if you want to hear about that story, you can click the video on the screen.
Yeah, man. Like, the music business is a nasty place. It's just, it's part of the game. All these things have been part of the game for so long that it's just become ingrained, and it's hurt people. Like, I got signed to a shitty deal, I'm gonna sign this person to a shitty deal instead of breaking that cycle. I get why the 360 deal exists. It's because there really isn't too much money in the streaming part, and they do need to get their money from the tours and the merch and stuff like that. And honestly, if they're putting in all the work and promoting you, and all you're really doing is just performing the records, and honestly, without that money, you wouldn't be where you're at. It's just, remember when I said hits aren't made, they're bought? Basically what I mean. You're not going to get to these levels unless you've been building so much equity and you've been at the top. Like if Drake or like a Kendrick were to go supremely independent and I have distributors and do it, yeah, they could probably succeed. But even with that being said, they would still see a huge drop off once you like take away that corporate machine behind you, because those are the people that have the influence over at Spotify and Apple. They can get their artists on like the top of the playlist. And when like for some of these big artists, the playlist might generate like 60-70% of the streams, which is why when like all those acts were getting canceled a few years ago and they were getting knocked off playlists, like they saw huge drop offs. Like they were complaining. They were like, yo, like I'm not getting any spins anymore. But it's because they took me off the playlist. And that's just the industry. It's the music business. They're all in cahoots together. Like I was seeing something the other day where it's basically saying like, oh, these music streaming sites aren't like selling you music. They're a social media platform that's designed to keep you on there. I was like, holy shit, that makes so much sense. It was well put. Let me know what you guys think. Like I said, almost everybody's first contract is trash. Like, man, it's crazy. I'm not even going to speak on it. Every first deal is typically bad unless you have some amazing lawyer and you just have the leverage. But yeah, let me know which one was your favorite worst record deal. And let me know if there's any ones that they missed as well. Hope you guys love the video, and I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you guys so much. The support has been freaking amazing. Let's keep it going. And yeah, that was dope.